All right, so I've taken some photos, okay, and now the next stage is to process those photos, okay? And what I want to do is get students into Lightroom as quickly as possible and get them addicted to Lightroom. So Lightroom is by far the gold standard when it comes down to like editing photos. There's freeware versions, not freeware version, but open source versions of this. If you can't afford Adobe prices, there's Darktable. Okay, there's Darktable. There's a couple other ones that I can't remember offhand, but Lightroom Classic is by far, like it's just so super intuitive. Is it worth the money? Yeah, but if you're a broke photographer, go with open source. Go with open source. Now, there is another thing about Lightroom. Okay, so Lightroom has Lightroom and Lightroom Classic. Okay, I'm not going to talk smack about Lightroom, but I will say that Lightroom Classic might be more your flavor if you are coming from an older style of photography, like the classic style. So we're going to be using Lightroom Classic in the lab because you'll learn some of the terminology, and that'll make you a better photographer because of that. So when you launch Lightroom Classic, it's going to immediately try to get you into all these little things. Just click OK, next everything. You put your SD card in there from the camera. Okay. And I would say immediately start a new catalog with your name, especially in the lab. Okay. If you're sharing a computer, this will help. If you're not sharing a computer, don't worry about this. Now I have a Jason Walsh catalog. Okay, so now to bring things into the catalog. So we go to import. And if you're on a Mac, it gets kind of wants permission for everything. So here's all the photos, and what I like to do is just up the thumbnails a little bit, like make them bigger, so I can judge ahead of time which ones might be suited. If you can't read a thumbnail and it looks good, I would say it's probably not suitable for editing. I would turn your brightness up on your monitor a little bit too, because some of your thumbnails are going to be dark. Okay, so I like the readability of that one, that one. So learn to judge thumbnails. Thumbnails are good. And you can see they brighten when you go mouse over them. One. I'll open that one just for the preview of junk. Maybe I'll put this one in there too because it has bad compositioning because it was just an example. All right, so let's go import. So right now we have this thing called previous import. Let's say we imported some more stuff into here. It would immediately go into previous import and all the old photos would go into all photos. Okay. So there's also a quick collection, which I use all the time. So I've sorted it once using thumbnails. So now I just double click onto the photo and I use the arrow tools and B on the keyboard. You see how B adds it to the quick collection. Okay. So now I can judge, hey, I get past the thumbnail stage. Now I'm going to quickly go through these and add the ones that just immediately pop to me. to the quick collection. Mm. Mm. Uh. All right, sweet. So now I've fine-lined it to just these. Okay, so that's the filtering stage of Lightroom. All right, now let's go on to like the stage where like I have these. Now I want to edit them a little bit. All right, so now we set composition and we set the color and everything else. So the very important thing to know about digital photography is you try to get it good in the camera. Okay, Lightroom is just frosting on the cake. You try to get it good in the camera, and then you'll do less posts that way. So post editing is Lightroom. So just by looking at these photos, for example, you're not going to be able to use the standard bell curve system for these photos because they're very stylistic of that exercise I showed you in one of the previous videos, which was called Shutter. Okay, so these are products of Shutter. If you look at their bell curve over here on the histogram, they are just spiked all over the place. So and some are tilted to the left and to the right and all kinds of crazy. So we're not going to be able to use the histogram for any of these photos to repair them. That's not what these photos are about. All right, composition though, we can fix that. So let's go into develop. Yeah, close that out. So things you should do first is crop. Okay, so you just go into the crop tool, this one right here, and then you start looking for a better composition. And when you're looking over here at the thumbnail. You're also trying to establish a ratio that is very kind of like that, where it's got a good ratio of being a landscape or a portrait. Leaving a little bit of room, knowing that you could just like go into different framing later on. Okay, so kind of like that, for example. And then we're using this grid spacing. You can get really technical on it and put key elements in the grid space. And that's kind of an easy way to do composition. So key elements might be located right here, 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 or in the center. Okay? And there's a lot of different compositioning. But for new people, I would, again, just stick to the grid. Like putting an eye here or something that's interesting here is good, or in the center of it. Okay, next one, there's no help on this photo, but there would be if I remove some of the wires maybe, and then I can kind of show you how to get rid of the wires in why we would use Photoshop for this one. This is a good example. It's an ugly photo though, but it's a good demonstration. Another really ugly one, so you got the little thing in the corner. I'm trapped in a room. Better, you know what I mean? I don't see that wire. It's there though. So these were, the composition was worked out in pre, not post. So the compositions don't need to be changed in these because I framed it well in the camera. Cool, so only 2 photos. And I would argue that this one right here, I could probably recrop. Oh, I can't recover anything from the top. Yeah, just to get rid of the USB. All right, so now that we've established crop, that's your first one, we now establish like what I like to do is detail and lens correction. Okay. So we always do these first because if you don't do these first, you don't know how to adjust your colors. For example, if I go to detail, these are JPEGs, so they're already pretty sharp, but since I'm going to print with these, I'm going to over sharpen them. Now I know I want the same sharpness for everything, and I want the same lens correction for everything. So remove chromatic aberration, and this will automatically, when you click on it, correct it for Nikon lens. Okay. So just by doing that right there, we can now copy this, and we want to copy. I'll check all, and then I want to uncopy or uncheck crop. Okay. And now by hitting Command A, you can highlight all these and see where it says sync. You want auto sync on and paste. What that'll do, it'll automatically correct all of these all at once. Okay, so now you have your entire collection with the correct lens and the correct sharpness. Those don't change. Another thing that doesn't change really is white balance, but since these photos are more stylistic, we would not really touch white balance that much. Okay, but if they were a product photography, we would touch white balance quite a bit. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is kind of look at these photos in a different way. As far as like, let's look at them as what we could do with the lighting. Okay, lighting is very stylistic, so there's not much other than you might want to play with the presence of things. Okay, so the presence means that you can up vibrance a little bit, we can up saturation a little bit, and we can up clarity a little bit. And clarity is really cool with lights because you get these starbursts, if you see it. It might add some flavor to the already stylistic lights. So you can see them, yeah. So LEDs are kind of fun with this exercise. Sweet. How about this table? You know what I mean? Like maybe that would be something like this one has it. This one has that. So this one would be cropped just a little bit to compensate for that table. There's no blurring in this program either. The blurring happens in camera. So, I mean, you could get a little bit, but I would say it's not a blurring program. So the reason everything is so sharp in the background is we had that f-stop so narrow, and there was so little light coming into the camera that it was able to focus on every detail in the scene. So this was sharp, that's sharp. Pretty cool. So that background is definitely wrecking every photo because of that. But when you guys do this exercise, you won't be doing it in front of that brick. That brick. You guys are going to be doing it in front of like a actual background. A black background looks pretty good, or a white background looks pretty good. But I'm stuck in this little room doing filming this, so I work with what I got. Okay, so I do like the starburst effect, and I'm going to apply that to everything. So I'm going to copy, check none, and I only want to do the presence one. If you see down here, it says presence. Okay, so what that is this basic. So now I'm going to copy that, and I want these, and I want to paste that across all of those. Boom, yeah, we got some. Cool things going on. All right, so now what about if we want to get rid of something? Okay, if we want to get rid of something totally, how do we do that? So we're going to look at two things in Photoshop that might be helpful for you. Okay, so let's say I want to go into Photoshop. So Command E. And you want to edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. All right, so once you're in Photoshop, once it launches, you can use two tools that are really helpful. As one, the patch tool. Okay, for example, here, this plug, I need it to go away. So I just highlight it, and drag it to somewhere else, and boom, it's gone. Okay, that's one tool that's very helpful. Okay, and of course the other one would be the clone stamp tool, but there's a pretty decent one in Lightroom for that. But if you need one, let's say you just click Alt over something that you like, and then just click on the thing that you don't like. Boom. If I wanted to get rid of like little spots on the wall, I could. Boom. Okay. Now, the other thing that's really handy in Photoshop that is not in Lightroom is this. So I can take a brush and I can make sure the softness is all the way down. Okay, I can make this brush bigger using the bracket keys on the keyboard. And I can go into this mode right here. Okay, this is the select using brush. So make sure that's on. It should paint it red if that's the case. All right, so I just paint my object red. Paint everything in the foreground red. Let's say I had my f-stop all the way it is. Okay, and then I want everything in the foreground also painted red. And if you want to do a good job, you can. I'm just going to do this very quickly because it's boring to watch. Okay, so go like this, boom. So now what I have is everything in the background is selected. Okay, so I can use like filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And I can blur that background down. Cool. And of course, the better that you do on the edges, the better it will look too. So if you do a really good job on the edges of like whatever's in the foreground, like zoom in, actually do a decent job, it looks a lot better. But there we go. So now it gave it some depth, right? Like huge amounts of depth. So that's what Photoshop's all about. So if you save it, you get that back in Lightroom. It takes a second to upgrade or update. All right, so that was a brief example of how to just use Photoshop and Lightroom together. There's so many different combinations of that. The only thing that it struggles with is the fact that, let's say I wanted to blur the background of every shot that I had using the same mask. So that's going to take you a little bit longer. All right, so that concludes right now. I'll do some more showing of Lightroom here in a little bit. And we're going to be working on how to get it out to print. All right, so I want to put a disclaimer right here in the video. Okay, this is the disclaimer. I'm about to show you a workflow that allows you to use Lightroom to produce prints. Okay, now I'm going to give you the print size in the assignment. Okay, it could be 4x6s just like the video. It could be 5x7s just like not like the video. It could be 18 by 24. this workflow works with any size I give you. Okay? That's the importance of a workflow, is it can be adopted to new sizes because clients want different size prints. So if the assignment says something like 5x7s or 18x24, but the video is showing you 4x6s, you'll have to apply the workflow to the new size. I think that's very important for students to be able to do that, to adopt or apply a workflow to a different scenario. Okay? So that's why I do that, because that's how you learn. So I hope you enjoy. That's my disclaimer. I know you're not going to like that, but that's all right. You can thank me in 20 years. Enjoy. All right, so this is the cropping portion of the workflow. At this point, you should have pictures of different junk in every shot. Okay, not like these. These are the same junk in every shot. Okay, the lights are different, but all the junk is the same. Okay, so yours shouldn't look like this. Okay, you're clearly outside of a room, not trapped in a room doing video editing, so you have access to all the junk. Okay, so each shot is different with different junk and different lighting. Okay, next, you're going to look at the assignment and find out what I want as far as print size for this year. Okay, generally I do 2 different print sizes. And now we have to crop all these correlating to that print size. For example, I might ask for 4x6 or 5x7 or 11x18 or some size. Okay, so look on the assignment to make sure that I'm asking for what sizes. All right, so now that you did that, you went out to the assignment and saw that, you can go to highlight all the pictures, Command A. Make sure to find out how many pictures I want too. I'm such a pain in the butt client, I know. Okay, so go to Develop. So how you crop these correlating to a print size is you have them all highlighted, get them into this Develop mode, and then let's take, this is my landscape one. So this one's going to be the fussiest one. So what I suggest is if you have this scenario where there's only one landscape and a whole bunch of portraits, just rotate this thing. Rotate right. Okay, now they're all portraits. Here's the reason why. So when we go to crop, it allows us to do an aspect ratio. So I'll do an aspect ratio correlating to 4x6. Okay, not much changed. Not much changed. Okay, so now what I have to do is take that and copy it, take the crop, copy it, and apply it, holding Shift, paste. Okay. Now that applied that crop to all of it. All right, so now the only thing that you have to do is move it around so it makes sense. So each photo, there's no shortcut for this. Each photo, so you go to this photo, you move the crop box. Okay, it's in the right ratio, it's just in the wrong place. And you cannot make it bigger and smaller. You can only move it around. Again, there's no magic workflow for this. It's all manual. And before you think you have it bad, just know that some students have seen where we took 1,000 shots and crop them correctly, so you don't have it bad. We've been on some pretty cool photographic escapades in the past. Okay, so once you get all of these for the area of interest, either centered or where you need it, but within that crop, okay, then you can go back to library. And now they're all cropped to 4:6. Whatever number that you are given, instead of 4:6, you would use 5:7, 3:5, whatever. All right, so let's move on. So the first thing you need to do is just make sure all your images are in the same orientation, even though they're landscape. So this is landscape, but if you right click on it, you can go to rotate left or rotate right, just so they're all portraits or all landscapes, but I would stick with all portraits. So just rotate your landscapes, and that's it. All right, another thing is you hit Command A to highlight all these, and we can go to print. So now we have to decide, is this a single image, is this a picture package, or is it a custom package? Okay. If it's going to be a single image, 4:6, and all these are highlighted, it's going to give us probably the results that we want. But it's also going to make it so that there is a border. So we're going to have to dictate a few things here. Paper size. So under page setup, manage custom sizes, we want 4:6 with zeroed out non-printable area. Okay. So that'll give us this ability over here to make our margins 0. And it will also make the ability to do a full bleed. Not really full bleed, but it goes out to the outside edge. Okay, so now we got a 4:6 sitting on a 4:6 with no margins. So we don't want to show guides. So by hitting repeat photos per page, right here, it's going to go show you all the photos, and there's 13 of them. Okay. Now, if you wanted to put your name on them, you could do an identity plate. I would definitely say it needs to be a lot less and a lot better font. So you can edit this. You can say like, and maybe a signature or something. I don't like brush script, but so I'll let you explore all the fonts here. There's a million. I'm going to go Apple Channery. It seems to be pretty sweet. Okay, so I got my name in the corner. Just did a little bit of a opacity dip on there, so it's nice and not there as much. Down here below, you want your print sharpening to be standard. You want the print resolution to be 240 ppi. You do not want draft mode printing on. We already rotated these, so we do not need the rotate to fit on. And we don't need zoom on or anything else. So right there it looks good. Let's close that out. And then, so don't press that button. You already did. That's all right. Nobody has their printer hooked up. So if you go to printer, however, you go and save to as PDF. Okay, that's what we want. All right, so now what we do is you drop this down, desktop, and this is going to be called my 4x6 photos. And that'll make a PDF that is ready for our press. All right, so now that workflow can be repeated for any size. Okay, any size whatsoever. Same workflow over and over again. All right, so that's how you export out your photos. Now it's a whole nother video just to get them printed. But for right now, you've learned some of the basics of Lightroom, bringing in photos, editing them, basic edits, being able to get rid of a couple things in Photoshop if you need to, and how to output them. So you're just at the very beginning stages of learning Lightroom, but those are some of the major ones right there. All right, so now if you want to watch the video on how to print these things, I highly suggest, I think it's going to be on the assignment.